All right, hey VC, Jeff here. I am going to jump on this contest that Chris Propfe, Musically Obsessed, is doing. He's just doing it because, and I figure since I won probably one of the, probably one of the last contests that Chris did, I figured, hey, make me a winner again. Come on, Chris, make me a winner. But anyway, so I wanted to jump on this one. I had to wait though because one of the questions required showing something that I had just ordered more of and I couldn't show until I got here. So they came today. Anyway, so let's get to it. There's basically 5 questions. So the first one is to show an album from 1974 because that's the year of his birth. Now I've got 2 because most of this whole question thing is all about storytelling for the most part, it seems like, because you're showing important albums and stuff. But so I want to show 2. First off, we're going to show the second Elf album, 1974 Elf's LA 59, and this was later reissued with a different cover called Carolina Country Ball. So you may be familiar with that cover with them like on looking over a balcony. But this is what it looked like originally. It's Ronnie James Dio, of course, his band Elf, their second album, and it's good stuff. It's way different than what you would expect, if you're into the heavy metal side of Ronnie James Dio. The other is a soundtrack I've shown numerous times, Phantom of the Paradise. This is a 1974 movie by blah 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 blah. This is it's got Paul Williams. Anyway, it's become somewhat of a cult classic. It's a Brian De Palma film. So in 74, when Chris was born, I was out at the theater seeing this about a half a dozen or more times. It's kind of creepy, kind of horror, kind of based loosely on the Phantom of the Opera. It's a musical. I love the music. I love this album. I love the movie. It's got a creepy scene in it that I used to close my eyes for as a kid, but I saw the movie over and over and over and over again. I was addicted to, I guess, the music and everything. So yes, that's my 74. Now, 1988, he wants to show an album from 1988 because that's kind of about the time when he really kind of got into music and rock and all that stuff. So I've got, again, 2. First, I want to show King's X, and no, it's not because I just got 2 of their new King's X reissues from Record Store Day. This is the first one from 1988, and I will say it is still, I'm glad to have recently got this on vinyl. It's been one of my favorite albums since it came out. I remember a friend of mine had a magazine that I currently now write for, and he was promoting this in there, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll check them out, and have fell in love with them ever since. The groove, the heavy, the harmonies. If you don't know King's X, check them out. They have a lot of different albums out. I really would say if you're a newcomer to the King's X realm, check out the first 4 albums. Check out the first 4. After that, they kind of experiment and stuff. And the 2 new albums that I just recently got out, Manic Moonlight and the Tapehead, which I had always in the past thought were a little bit more on the odd experimental side. I've been listening to them to death with the new, listening to them now on vinyl and just realizing how much I did really enjoy them. And they are some experimentals there. But anyway, but then this one, Vengeance, Human Sacrifice, and the importance of this is a Christian band. And this is one of the first Christian, like thrash, like really aggressive vocals. At the time when this came out, we might have wanted to call it like a death metal feel because in the 80s, it didn't get much more aggressive and heavier than this. It was just really bombastic. And anyway, and in the Christian realm, when Christian rock was barely, able to keep its head above water with all the churches attacking it, this was very, very, very controversial. And it was recently reissued on vinyl, like in the past couple years, and it's still a phenomenal album for all of its rawness and heaviness. Still, just an exciting album for the 80s. Now, 3 albums that are important to us, and of course, there's so many albums that are important, so many that carry so many stories, and so I picked some based on memories. Now, because 1988 was when Chris first started getting into music, 1977-ish is when I first got into rock and roll. And this was the first, I've told this story 100 times in the past, but this was the first album and band that I discovered when I got into rock and roll. And before that I'd been listening to disco and all of that kind of stuff. But this was the first album that I went out, bought, and got into rock and roll. And this is that's Kiss Another third album was 1984. This was one of the first Christian rock albums I bought, and it really made it really, around this time, shortly after this time, is when I'd always been brought up in the church, but I always listened to, mainstream, secular, evil music, people would say. And it was around 85 when I said, I'm going to get my act together, and I straightened out my faith. This album was really one of the only Christian bands that I had heard to that point that were worth my attention. And so this is the original album that I got from 1984. It's all kind of beat up. It's one of the only ones that survived from my original record collection, and I have multiple copies of it now because there's different colors. But very pivotal in my life at that time. And then another one, 1980, Billy Joel's Glass Houses. Now, the reason this stands out for me, first off, from start to finish, every note on this album I love and have memorized over the years. My wife loves this album. It's one of our favorite albums. And I remember getting this album for Christmas. My mother bought it for me. At the same time, she also bought me Dressed to Kill. And I'm pretty sure there was another album. But I remember that Christmas, it was just such a weird thing because I got the Billy Joel album and a Kiss album for Christmas. And this album has just been a part of my life since 1980. And back then, this and The Game by Queen, which might have been the other album, I don't know. I remember getting that roughly in that time frame. This and the Game by Queen, I remember wearing these albums out when I got them back in the day. I don't have The Game. I don't have Queen. I don't have any Queen right now, actually. So, but that is one that I definitely want. The Game. I know it's one of their more commercial ones, but again, that's one of those albums where every song on it, from start to finish, the same as this, every song is just ingrained in my head, and I love it to death. And this is one of the ones that I absolutely love to death. Now, next he wants to see, and this is what I had to wait for it to come in, he wants to see the inner and outer sleeves that we used. I was out of inner sleeves, ordered them, and they came in today. These are the outer sleeves that I typically use. I buy them at the local record store, the BCW. They're pretty common. You could probably get them online too, but I buy them at the local record store just to support local music. But they come in 2, 3, and 4 milliliter. I buy the 2. I know that's kind of lightweight, but I like the crystal clear view of them, and I like the cost too. And they do fine. They do fine for what I want. I don't like outers with flaps. I don't like the kinds that seal. I don't like any of that stuff. So those have always done really well, and the 2s are fine. And then for inners, I've been using these. I get these from Amazon, and I ordered them and came in today. Invest in Vinyl. And the reason is they're just basic poly sleeves. I like the fact, though, that they have the curved bottom. They hold the record really nice. They don't crinkle up in the album when you shove them in there. They don't fold up. And then what I do, and here's a good case in point, one of these albums here. What I do with them, when I get an album that has an inner sleeve that is like paper, or paper, or an inner sleeve that's got print on it that's also paper, is I take the paper sleeve and then I insert this sleeve into it. So the paper gives the support of holding the plastic sleeve in there. And so I do that for almost every album that doesn't already come with the polyline sleeve. So those are the inners and outers that I use. And then the last question is, how long have you been in the VC? My first video was August of 2018. At the time, I was watching, I started watching only Scott Waters. Mainly had been friends with him, or, not really. I don't think he knew me at that point. But I knew him. I knew his band Ultimatum. So I was watching his stuff. He had mentioned at some point some other names. At one point he mentioned Ron Haggerty. So then I bounced over and found Ron Haggerty. So I started watching his videos at that time. Started communicating with him. Had a lot of the same musical tastes. And from there, started noticing one or two other people. And then Ron had a contest. And I said, I'm going to do a video. I had just started tinkering with video editing and video skills because my wife and I had started geocaching the year before. And in early 2018, we started a YouTube channel of our geocaching adventures. So I was tinkering with editing video. I was out taking the GoPro out and videotaping, and I thought, well, let me make one on records. And I had been buying records again, got back into the vinyl buying mode in 2017. And by that time, it's about a year later, and I'm thinking, I got a couple records now, let's do this. And so I jumped on board and entered Ron's contest, which I did not win, but I did enter the contest. That was my first video, and from there I just continued on. And now I'm pushing 400 videos, 370, 80, 100, I don't know, somewhere in the 400 realm. It's getting there. Anyway, that's it. That's the contest. Chris, thanks a lot for the contest. It's always fun to be able to dig through and pull out older stuff to talk about rather than all the new stuff. That's it for now, though. I will be back. Rock on and rock hard.